Now it is time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Good evening, Lawrence.
Good evening, Alex. I want to second everything Adam Jellison just said, that John Thune is definitely the best possibility out of a bad group to choose from. And we'll find out. We'll just find out whether there really is any difference at all in who they picked as leader. It's a huge test. We have Andrew Weissmann joining us tonight. Alex, remember him?
Yeah, I'm so jealous. Can I just say, he is exactly who I want. When I heard Matt Gaetz is going to be nominated as the Attorney General, I just wanted someone who understands the inner workings of the Department of Justice and how this is going over. I am so eger to hear what he has to say.
It's the how much furniture can he break segment. That's what we're wondering about.
Yeah, and Weissmann knows.
Yes, he does.
Have a great show.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you. Well, the Republicans hit the magic number of 218 today to win control of the House of Representatives, and then immediately, and perhaps temporarily, lost control of the House when a Republican House member suddenly resigned, bringing the number of Republican seats in the House down to 217, with 9 more House elections yet to be decided. Resignations from the House of Representatives are rare. Even more rare are resignations when a House member is under investigation by the House Ethics Committee. The resignation stops the investigation. That is what Congressman Matt Gaetz hoped to achieve by his sudden resignation today while under investigation by the House Ethics Committee for possible involvement in sexual misconduct and drug use. Most members of Congress who resign while under investigation are never heard from again in government, except possibly at their criminal trials. Donald Trump promised we will be hearing from Matt Gaetz again by announcing him as the choice for the next Trump Attorney General. Matt Gaetz is the single most inappropriate selection for Attorney General in the history of that office at the time of his selection. Republican President Richard Nixon's first Attorney General, John Mitchell, was, of course, the worst Attorney General in history since he was convicted of crimes committed while serving as Attorney General. But at the time of his selection, John Mitchell appeared to be just another Republican establishment lawyer going into a Republican administration. Unlike Matt Gaetz, John Mitchell was not under an ethics investigation when he was selected to be Attorney General. John Mitchell had never been the subject of a federal criminal investigation of sex trafficking as Matt Gaetz was. John Mitchell had never been arrested for drunk driving as Matt Gaetz was. As shocked as Washington was yesterday with the Trump choice of a Fox weekend host for Secretary of Defense, the shock was even greater today, including among Republicans. There is no Republican member of the House of Representatives who is hated, and I mean hated, by more Republican members than Matt Gaetz. Here's the reaction of Republican Congressman Max Miller.
I just think it's silly. I believe that the president is probably rewarding him for being such a loyal soldier to the president. But the president is smart enough and his team is smart enough to know that Mr. Gaetz will never get confirmed by the Senate. Mr. Gaetz breaks things to break things, and then once he breaks it even more. And that is somebody who should not be the Attorney General of the United States.
Kevin McCarthy, who was driven out of the speakership by Matt Gaetz, said this.
I'll give you the truth why I'm not Speaker. It's because one person, a member of Congress, wanted me to stop an ethics complaint because he slept with a 17-year-old.
The Democrats in the Senate will no doubt want to hear from Kevin McCarthy as a witness at Matt Gaetz' Senate confirmation hearing. The Senate confirmation hearing for Attorney General will be run by the 91-year-old new chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, who has become a rubber stamp for all things Trump in the Senate. But Matt Gaetz is already in trouble trying to get a majority vote in the Senate, with Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski telling NBC News today it will be a significant challenge for Gaetz to win enough votes to be confirmed. I don't think it's a serious nomination for the Attorney General. That's Lisa Murkowski's view, Murkowski said. He's got his work cut out for him, added Senator Joni Ernst, Republican of Iowa. Senator John Cornyn said the Senate will have to consider any nominee by the president seriously, but we also have a constitutional responsibility. Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, sounded a note of skepticism. Obviously, the president has the right to nominate whomever he wishes, but I'm certain that there will be a lot of questions, she said. Collins said the ethics probe will be one of the issues that's going to be raised because, as I understand it, there's an active investigation by the House Ethics Committee. Well, there was an active investigation when the senator was saying that, but hours later, that investigation was ended by Matt Gaetz' resignation. A year ago, Matt Gaetz said the world is not ready for an Attorney General, Matt Gaetz.
You never know, David. It may be an Attorney General Matt Gaetz down the road or someone of my liking who will be there to actually enforce the law and provide the accountability, not just the vision, but the actual accountability. The people that are sending you those messages deserve that in a free and just and constitutional republic.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. And I like that. I like that. Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Are you kidding me? Man.
The world is not ready, probably. Certainly Senate confirmation wouldn't be.
Punchbowl News is reporting tonight that the House Ethics Committee was going to vote on Friday, just 2 days from now, on releasing a report of its investigation of Matt Gaetz. That vote might never take place, and that report might never be seen. But between now and Matt Gaetz' Senate confirmation, every reporter in Washington will be trying to get a leaked copy of that report. To protect Matt Gaetz, every Republican member of the House will have to defend suppressing that Ethics Committee report. Every Republican senator who wants to vote for Matt Gaetz' confirmation will have to defend suppressing that ethics report about Matt Gaetz. Every Republican senator will have to insist that they want less information about Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General than is available. The Trump team has said that they want to abolish background checks for jobs in the Trump administration. Now we know why. In a normal investigation of a nominee for Attorney General, the background check is done by the FBI. That's the FBI doing a background check of their future boss. The FBI already knows a lot about Matt Gaetz from its criminal investigation of a friend of Matt Gaetz who is now serving time for sex trafficking. That information should be included in the FBI's background report that is normally provided to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now we know why. Donald Trump said the other day he wants to bypass the confirmation process for his nominees. Donald Trump wants possibly unconfirmable nominees like Matt Gaetz to take their positions in the administration through recess appointments. A recess appointment is possible only when the Senate is in recess for at least 10 days. Then, in the event of what's supposed to be an emergency vacancy that has to be filled, the president can appoint someone without Senate confirmation. That appointment is only good for approximately 18 months to a maximum of 2 years until the next Congress is sworn in. Matt Gaetz was promised a recess appointment before he was publicly chosen by Senator Rick Scott of Florida, who was one of the candidates for Republican Majority Leader of the Senate. Rick Scott was the only one of the three candidates who immediately said, quote, 100% agree to Donald Trump's demand for recess appointments. Rick Scott came in last today in the closed-door secret election for Senate Majority Leader, in which only Republican senators voted. John Thune, the heir apparent of Mitch McConnell from South Dakota, was elected Majority Leader by Republicans in sharp and full defiance of Elon Musk. 3 days ago, Elon Musk, who has never expressed a view on Senate leadership elections before, said, "Rick Scott for Majority Leader!" exclamation point. He also said then, "Senator Thune is the top choice for Democrats." He was right about Senator Thune. Most Democratic senators would prefer John Thune as the Republican leader. Here's Democratic Senator Mark Warner today.
I've worked with John Thune on a lot of things, even like our first TikTok bill together. Again, I don't agree with John Thune on everything, and he's going to have to work. He's got a challenge to work with the president-elect and his caucus. But the thing about John Thune is, he's partisan, but he's always a decent guy, and that, I think, kind of basic decency is something that I imagine will be tested. But I'm looking forward to working with him.
So Elon Musk, the Senate lobbyist, lost big time today. Elon Musk lobbied Republicans in the Senate on Majority Leader, and Elon Musk lost. His candidate came in last out of the three candidates. And Matt Gaetz's chance of getting a recess appointment to Attorney General just dropped from 100% with Rick Scott to no better than 50% with John Thune as Senate Majority Leader. John Thune might turn out to be as weak as Rick Scott and bend to every Trump demand. But as of tonight, we know two things about the incoming Senate Majority Leader. John Thune, like most Republicans, doesn't want Matt Gaetz to get a recess appointment. And he doesn't want Matt Gaetz to become Attorney General. He's not going to say those things out loud, but that is obvious about a senator like John Thune. That doesn't mean John Thune won't end up voting for Matt Gaetz' confirmation in the end. But John Thune might, just might, try to work the secret magic that a majority leader can use to slow down a nomination or kill a nomination without his fingerprints being at the scene of the crime. Majority leaders have many ways of doing that invisibly. At the end of Donald Trump's second impeachment trial, Senator Thune said, "My vote to acquit should not be viewed as exoneration for his conduct on January 6, 2021, or in the days and weeks leading up to it. What former President Trump did to undermine faith in our election system and disrupt the peaceful transfer of power is inexcusable. But he is no longer president. The Constitution is clear that the primary purpose of impeachment is removal from office, and that's what I believe the founders intended." Reports are now emerging from Trump world about the predictable tensions with Elon Musk. NBC News reports Musk has been so aggressive in pushing his views about Trump's second term that he's stepping on the toes of Trump's transition team and maybe overstaying his welcome at Mar-a-Lago. According to two people familiar with the transition, he's behaving as if he's a co-president and making sure everyone knows it, one of the people said of Musk. Politico reports he's become almost a comical distraction, hanging around Mar-a-Lago, sidling into high-level transition meetings and giving unsolicited feedback on Trump's personnel decisions. Elon is getting a little big for his britches, one insider tells Playbook. Trump, for his part, doesn't seem to mind, relishing the attention he's getting from the richest man in the world. There was even talk of trying to have Elon Musk join the meeting that Donald Trump had today with President Biden, in which current White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and incoming White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles also joined the discussion after that one-on-one in the Oval Office. Musk did not make it into that meeting, but that's the only meeting Elon Musk seems to have been barred from so far. Donald Trump lets Elon Musk follow him around the way President Franklin Delano Roosevelt let his little dog follow him around all over the world, including on voyages across oceans. Donald and Elon's excellent adventure makes perfect sense for Donald, who always needs money. With the richest person in the world beside him, Donald Trump need never talk to another banker in his life. All of Donald's debt issues can be solved by Elon at any moment. And for Donald, there is the pleasure of putting on public display the richest person in the world's utter subservience to Donald Trump. In public, Donald Trump is Elon's daddy, and Elon is demoted to the status of Trump's son, a status that allows him to stand in front of Eric in the family photograph. Because Elon Musk understands nothing about government, he might not understand how fake the fake job is that Donald Trump gave him yesterday when he told Elon Musk he would be in charge of finding and getting rid of government waste. Donald Trump gave Elon Musk the power to do absolutely nothing. Donald Trump simply made Elon Musk another lobbyist with Congress. If Elon Musk finds something that he thinks is waste in government, he can recommend to the House and Senate committees of jurisdiction that they vote to cut that spending. But if they don't vote to cut that spending will continue forever. And Elon Musk better not recommend cutting any wasteful government spending in Texas, say, or in Florida, or in any Republican state. Elon Musk has no power in the government at all. Elon Musk has no power over spending and has no power over cutting spending. Only Congress does. And so Elon Musk's fake job on the Trump team is to be a spending lobbyist with Congress. And Elon Musk will have to convince both the House and Senate to agree to vote on spending cuts that Elon Musk proposes. And we saw Elon Musk's power today as a lobbyist in the United States Senate. He lost, and he lost very, very badly. In the very first vote by Republican senators, they said, we don't want what Elon Musk is selling. We don't want Rick Scott, the Republican senator who said he wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare. When Elon Musk recommends cutting Social Security and Medicare to the Senate Finance Committee won't even have a hearing on it, never mind a vote on it. Elon Musk was humiliated today. In his first big power play in the United States Senate, Elon Musk was crushed and humiliated. And he was humiliated today by Donald Trump, who must, at some point, humiliate everyone around him to demonstrate his dominance over them. It is very likely that Donald Trump is the one sucking up to Elon Musk in private because Donald Trump knows that he needs Elon Musk's money. And he needs Elon Musk's social media influence. But for Donald Trump, the only thing that matters is what happens in public. The only thing that matters to Donald Trump is how he is seen in public. And so today, with Elon Musk tagging along at Donald Trump's meeting with House Republicans, Donald Trump trotted Elon Musk into that room to show House Republicans two things. One, the richest person in the world is on my side. The richest person in the world can help you or hurt you, depending on how helpful you are to me. But here's the other thing. The richest person in the world is not the most powerful person in the world. That was Donald Trump's message to the House of Representatives today, spoken and unspoken. And what he said out loud about Elon Musk, just to demonstrate his power over Elon Musk publicly, just to humiliate Elon Musk, as Donald Trump must do, as Donald Trump's twisted psyche demands that he do. Donald Trump told all Republican House members, quote, Elon won't go home. I can't get rid of him. And everyone laughed at that. They laughed that uncomfortable laugh. But they laugh when Donald Trump makes a joke about someone on his team, a joke that everyone knows is true, a joke that paints that person as pathetic, as Donald Trump's personal sense of superiority demands that he do. Donald Trump's jealousy of Elon Musk's wealth must eat away at him every second he has to look at the richest person in the world. But in public, at least, Donald Trump gets to do what he likes to do best. Insult and humiliate. Insult and humiliate, in this case, Elon Musk. Quote, Elon won't go home. I can't get rid of him. I had never heard of Texas Republican Congressman Troy Nehls, who just got reelected to his third term, before today. Today, Congressman Troy Nehls entered the House record books for saying the stupidest thing a member of Congress could ever say about a president. Troy Nehls had no idea, obviously, that he was contradicting the very design of the relationship between the House of Representatives and the president that the founders wrote into the Constitution. And in the process, Troy Nehls erased the line between church and state because he, in effect, said Donald Trump is God when he said Donald Trump is never wrong.
If Donald Trump says jump 3 feet high and scratch your head, we all jump 3 feet high and scratch our heads. That's it. He's got a 10-pound brain. Elon's got a 10-pound brain, and we need to take advantage of that. If Donald Trump says tariffs work, period. Because Donald Trump is really never wrong. Think about it. He's never wrong.
Joining our discussion now is Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, who just won her re-election campaign for a third term. She's a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee and the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's a delight to join you. What a powerful opening.
Senator, Elon Musk at some point is going to be lobbying you on spending. Presumably on spending cuts and possibly on spending increases for the government programs that he benefits from. What do you think the committee reception is going to be for an outsider like Elon Musk coming along saying he knows how to do your job better than you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, we're all for eliminating waste and improving efficiency. But I have a feeling that Elon Musk has a very different definition of efficiency than the rest of us do. And look, we know that they are lined up, ready to vote on a huge package of new tax cuts for billionaires like Elon Musk, for big corporations, and that will be done at the expense of things that we rely on: Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits. You know, I chair a subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee that funds things like childcare, things like our tools to fight our fentanyl crisis. And I will fight furiously to make sure that we keep those necessary investments. If they want to talk about real efficiency, I'm open to that conversation. But I have a feeling that Elon Musk defines these terms differently than we do.
Senator, what was your reaction when you heard of Donald Trump's choice for Attorney General? And do you believe Matt Gaetz could be confirmed by the Senate?
So it has been quite a week listening to these announcements. And look, I believe it's absolutely essential that we play our advise and consent role. The president nominates, the Senate confirms. I think we have to fight furiously against this idea of recess appointments. But we have a responsibility as the Senate, as senators, to confirm those who are qualified for their posts and to reject those who are not. And it seems to me that President Trump, in that particular nomination, as well as some others, are, he's nominating folks that are in that latter category. And by the way, on Matt Gaetz, you were talking about the ethics report. I think it would be absolutely essential in investigating his background and his qualifications to have access to that full report from the House.
Yeah, that was my next question. And this has never happened before, that you're going to be presented with the nominee who is the subject of a House Ethics Committee report that is being suppressed or may be being suppressed at that time.
Yes, well, that's why he resigned. That report was just days away from being issued, and they closed an investigation and a report once the person in the subject is no longer a member of the House of Representatives. But we have a very different role in the Senate if we are looking at confirmation of one of the president's nominations, and that would be to thoroughly review their background, their history. The FBI would be involved, as you said. But we also should have access to all relevant reports and documents that would inform our choice.
Senator Tammy Baldwin, thank you very much for joining us again tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Many members of Congress had never heard of Donald Trump's choice of Secretary of Defense until Trump announced yesterday that he was choosing a Fox weekend morning host. One of the members of Congress who had never heard of Trump's choice is the top Democrat on the House committee that has jurisdiction over everything the Secretary of Defense does. That Democrat, Adam Smith, will join us next. Here is Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense, talking about Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine last week.
From the beginning, like a couple days in, I was like, this feels like a Putin's give me my back war. It kind of feels like, I feel like you've been pushing pretty hard, and we used to have the former Soviet Union, and we're pretty proud of that. And Ukraine was a part of it, and all these other countries. And I want my back. And this idea that I hear all the time, and I've friends who would probably agree with us on most things. They're like, well, if you don't stop him in Ukraine, then he's going to go all the way to Poland. And he's going. I don't think he's. I mean, maybe in a perfect world where he had unlimited capabilities and he could crown himself king of Europe, he would. I think he's probably knows enough to know that it's probably not going much further than Ukraine.
That sounds like someone who had no idea a week ago that he was going to be named Secretary of Defense by Donald Trump, if the Senate will confirm him. The top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, which has jurisdiction over everything the Secretary of Defense does, said this.
I confess I did not know who Pete Hegseth was until about 20 minutes ago. He does not seem to have much of a detailed background in DOD policy. To the extent he's worked on any of that stuff, it has been on veterans policy, not on DOD issues. So the lack of experience is concerning. Now, I have not heard what his plans are, so we will see what his plans are. But it was surprising, and it is concerning just given that lack of experience. The Pentagon, biggest bureaucracy in the world. It's a hard thing to run. So I think it's going to be a challenge.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. He is the senior Democrat on the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us. Have you learned anything in the last 24 hours that reassures you about Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense?
No, actually, I've learned a lot of things that make it all the more alarming, and you just played a clip of that. I mean, he fundamentally doesn't seem to approach these issues with much seriousness, and I understand that. He's a pundit. Okay, that's what pundits can do. They pontificate. They take ideas off the top of the head and they throw them out there for purposes of discussion. That's fine, but if you're going to run the Pentagon, you don't need to be a pundit. You need to understand policy, and you need to have actual concrete plans. So it is really concerning. Everything I've heard in the last 24 hours shows me that he's a shoot-from-the-hip guy, doesn't have a clear policy agenda, who is simply there to do Donald Trump's bidding. So, and look, I mean, there's two layers of concern here. One is it's a complicated job, regardless of what your policy positions are. Running that massive bureaucracy, knowing, the president comes to you and says, hey, we got a situation in the Middle East. What are our options? If you've never actually been in a situation room or in the DOD and analyzed what those options are, you're kind of making it up off the top of your head. And that is very, very alarming. We got billion-dollar programs that the Pentagon's in charge of. This guy's never procured anything on this level. So the lack of experience is troubling. The flip sort of approach to something like Ukraine, to women serving in the military, yeah, this is deeply troubling.
Now, we've heard your Republican colleagues in the House come out against Matt Gaetz, who is, by my gauge, is the most hated Republican by Republicans in the House.
I was going to joke that's just because they know him.
That's right. There you go. There you go. Is there any similar reaction behind the scenes there with Republicans to Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense?
Yeah, behind the scenes, there are the concerns that I just laid out. But publicly, and look, even on Matt Gaetz, I mean, House Republicans don't like him, but Trump seems to be leading them around by the nose. I mean, do you really think that the Senate Republicans are going to vote against any of Trump's picks? It's really worrisome, and we haven't even talked about Tulsi Gabbard at DNI, where she has no experience in intel matters whatsoever. So the picks that have come in the last couple of days, they're cause for concern, but also, as a number of people have pointed out, I've heard, it's not surprising. Trump was very clear about what he was going to do. And this is consistent with what he said, gosh, for the last 4 years.
Well, it will only take 3 or 4 maybe Republicans to peel off in the confirmation process, and these people are in trouble. It also depends, of course, on when Marco Rubio is confirmed, because that will remove one Republican senator from the vote. But go back to Tulsi Gabbard. Where do you see the biggest danger in these appointments? Is one of these appointments the one that you think is most dangerous?
I think collectively. I don't know that one is more dangerous than any other, but there's, I guess I would say, 3 big dangers. One, ignorance. Okay, these are really important and difficult decisions. And I'll be honest with you, Lawrence, I became ranking member of the Armed Services Committee 14 years ago. I'd been in Congress, I don't know, what was it, 16 years at the time, 14 years at the time. And early on, first couple of days in there, I was like, wow, okay, there's some information I hadn't seen before, things I need to get up to speed on, and that was ranking member on the Armed Services Committee, all right? To be Director of National Intelligence, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, I mean, you've got major issues coming at you that these people have literally never seen before. So that's number one. Number two is their absolute fidelity to Donald Trump and Donald Trump's propensity to have a fair number of deeply concerning whims, which he will require these people to act on and which they will act on. And number three is their policy positions. I mean, you just heard it. Putin, I don't know if I can swear. I think you bleeped out. Putin's just getting his shit back, but I think he'll stop at Ukraine. I got news for Mr. Hegseth. Putin thinks he's got a lot more shit to get back. Okay, so even if that's his position, he should have a more alarming outlook on where that goes. So all 3 of those levels make this deeply concerning. But again, I want to emphasize for all of those, Republicans who claim to be troubled by Trump, but were more troubled by Kamala Harris. Come on. He told you this was what he was going to do over and over and over again. And yes, it is deeply alarming, and now we all are going to have to deal with it.
Congressman Adam Smith, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you. Special Prosecutor Jack Smith is writing a report for Attorney General Merrick Garland of all his criminal investigations of Donald Trump. Will we ever see that report? And how much damage could an Attorney General Matt Gaetz do? Andrew Weissman joins us next to answer both of those pressing questions. Here are just some of the reactions from inside the Justice Department to Donald Trump's choice of Congressman Matt Gaetz as Attorney General to lead the Justice Department. This is what some people there were saying today. It's laughable, truly stunning, insane, shouldn't be confirmable. He is uniquely qualified. How many other prospective attorneys general had previous experience as the subject of a criminal investigation? That reaction came from unnamed sources inside the Justice Department that the Attorney General leads. One of Matt Gaetz's first orders of business as Attorney General is, of course, to stop all prosecutions of January 6th defendants, no matter how many police officers they attacked and beat up. Matt Gaetz has visited the Washington, D.C. jail where the January 6th defendants have been held multiple times. And here he is on the first anniversary of the January 6th attack.
Congresswoman Green and I are not here to celebrate January 6th. We're not here to obsess about it, but we are here to expose the truth, to ask key questions about what happened on January 6th, who animated the violence, the extent to which the federal government may have been involved. We know this. January 6th last year wasn't an insurrection. No one has been charged with insurrection. No one has been charged with treason. But it very well may have been a Fedsurrection.
Joining our discussion now is Andrew Weissman, former FBI General Counsel and former Chief of the Criminal Division in the Eastern District of New York. He's an MSNBC legal analyst and co-author of the New York Times bestselling book, The Trump Indictments. Andrew, inside the Justice Department, if that man makes it to the Attorney General's office, what can he do?
So big if,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But if he can, I think one of the things I look at is what happened during the Barr Justice Department. And you have to remember the vast majority of people there have taken an oath of office. Mm-hmm. They care about facts and they care about law. And one of the things I have never seen before in 21 years at the Department of Justice is people resigning because of what the department and actually the Attorney General was telling them to do. And that happened during the Barr Justice Department with people in the Roger Stone prosecution, for instance, quite famously resigning. That does not happen. You had the number 2 in the special counsel investigation and the John Durham investigation resigning. That, again, that does not happen. I think you will see that over and over again, but I think that there are lots of people who will stay to do their duty, but if they're finally ordered to do something that is against the law and against the facts, they obviously can't do that.
What is the Attorney General legally empowered to do? Forget about breaking rules or anything, but legally empowered to do that could do severe damage?
So they have enormous power, first, in terms of setting all of the priorities of the department. They can say civil rights investigations that are currently ongoing, stop. Criminal investigations, stop. They can say, we're going to prosecute these people, but we're not going to prosecute those people. All of the things that we heard from Donald Trump when he was president the first time about, going after Democrats, but not going after Republicans. Dismiss cases against my friends and family and allies, but go after my enemies. All of that is something that the Attorney General could do. I mean, obviously it can be challenged in court, and the issues are that he has to he needs facts in order to do that. But just enormous damage in terms of priorities, in terms of ignoring the facts, in terms of ignoring the law. And I just want to say the key thing here is it is such an important job because it is the job that keeps us safe, not just from in a criminal matter, but in a national security context. You have to have somebody with experience. I know that your prior guest just talked about this. As somebody who's been there, this is such an important job. Regardless of policies, you need somebody who's experienced, who needs a steady hand. It is really a question of all of our safety. It is not a political matter.
And by the way, on day one, he can say to them, give me all of your investigative material about me and that sex trafficking case that I was investigated in. I want that. And he can just take it. Can he also say, destroy this material?
There are limits on what he can do in terms of destruction because there are statutes that deal with that. For instance, he could violate the law.
Okay, but and then Trump will just pardon him.
We're dealing with such a there's so many levers to avoid legal accountability. But just to be clear, he can do that not just with himself, but he can do that with any possible ally, anybody who's committing crimes on behalf of or that helps. Anybody who's aligned with him, he can just say, don't worry about it. We are not going to investigate
it.
And
he asked Donald Trump for a pardon in Donald Trump's first term. He'll probably ask him for a pardon before he starts this job going forward. Andrew, we got to squeeze in a commercial break. We got to come back and talk about Jack Smith and the report he's going to file. We'll be right back with Andrew Weissmann. Special Prosecutor Jack Smith is working on a written report of all of his criminal investigations of Donald Trump, which he will submit to an Attorney General Merrick Garland, and will resign before President Biden leaves office. Andrew Weissmann is back with us. Andrew, so now we know the schedule for the Jack Smith team. They will all resign before the president leaves office, before January 20th. They will submit more than one written report, one for each investigation, or how will this work?
Well, it could either be one huge report, but two separate sections, one for January 6th, one for the Mar-a-Lago classified documents, or it could be separated into two. That's less important. I'm particularly interested in the Mar-a-Lago one because that's one where we have some of the facts, but there's a whole lot we don't know. With respect to the January 6th case, there's just a lot more that we know because of the January 6th committee hearings, a very lengthy indictment, and the most recent briefs where Jack Smith laid out a lot of his proof. So that's one where a report would be useful, but the Mar-a-Lago case, I think, is one where we would learn a whole lot more. Whether it will be public, the big question. Remember, the special counsel rules that are post-Ken Starr basically reacted to what Ken Starr did and said the report that is issued by a special counsel will be given in private to the Attorney General. And then the Attorney General decides whether it is made public, because they were reacting to Ken Starr sort of salaciously dumping volumes on Congress and the public willy-nilly. it's all going to be a question of what Merrick Garland does, whether he says it is fair and appropriate for the public to get this. I think the main argument for it is the public had a right to a speedy trial. Yes. That has been denied. There needs to be some way that there is a public accounting. There are arguments against it, which is that until somebody has been charged and convicted absent their consent, that you don't besmirch them. But here, the former president has already been indicted for both of these things. There's a whole lot of evidence in the public record, and so there's a reason to
But what about the Mueller report, where Donald Trump was not charged, but Attorney General Barr released the entire report with some redactions?
Yes, although there was either the people who were named had been charged, had pled guilty, or consented to it, and so there was an effort to deal with what I refer to as sort of the Jim Comey problem, which is that you don't talk about people, about their potential criminality if they have not been charged. And that was sort of when people looked at Jim Comey, they said, look, one of his sins that people of the Department of Justice really, I think, uniformly say was the wrong decision was to make comments about Hillary Clinton when she had not been charged at all and she was under investigation, and then it was closed because they decided there was not sufficient proof.
How much would it weigh, or should it weigh, on an attorney general, the historical imperative of this? History demands that this report be made public.
I think that does weigh on making it public. I think that was something that we felt in Special Counsel Mueller's investigation, that just given how much public interest there was in this issue, whether people were going to like the report or dislike the report, that you couldn't have 2 years of the public looking at this and not have a public accounting. Even though the rules said it had to go to we had to follow the rules of it first goes to the Attorney General, there was a sense that our real audience here needed to be the public.
If it's not released, Donald Trump's Attorney General will destroy the entire file, order it destroyed, and if that becomes a criminal violation, that Attorney General will be pardoned by Donald Trump for it. Donald Trump will order it. The Attorney General Garland has to know that if he does not make this report public, it will all be destroyed. That's what the Trump administration will do.
Yeah, I mean, that is something they have to be thinking about. I can tell you one of the strategies we had that I've written about in Special Counsel Mueller's investigation, because we were concerned every moment about being fired, was we filed as much as we could with the court. Why? Because the court is a separate branch of government, and there the president or the Attorney General cannot simply go into the file and destroy things. So those are ways that I'm sure they are thinking about how to make sure that history is preserved.
Andrew Weissmann, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We will be right back. Tonight on this program, I will be joined on our Washington studio by President Biden's Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg.